A banana landed near me as I walked back. Head bowed to take off my training top. I felt physically sick. I was absolutely terrified. Play stopped and I was on for the goal-scoring hero Clive Walker. And of all people, so the crescendo of abuse got worse. It was as much as I could do to run about, leave alone, have any effect on the game. Thankfully, the ordeal was soon over, and I dashed off to the dressing room. These cruel voices chasing after me down the players' tunnel. This was the experience of the first black man ever to play for Chelsea's first team. I made history, and the fans made my life hell. When I look back, a part of me would just like to forget the early days of Chelsea, but I can't do that now. My experience affected me, completely changed me, and I think back there every day. Some questions never get resolved in my head. Why did it happen? Why did I respond that way? I did. Where were the lessons I missed along the way? Why did I always make the wrong choices? To forget is not an option. Wow.
You're explaining what happened, your experiences, very candidly, and at the same time, you're reflecting on, this is where I was then. Now I understand why my mum did this. Now I understand why that particular thing happened to me. And so would you agree, it's almost like an apology and a confessional as well as a sports autobiography? I told you it's not just a simple thing, it's more than one thing here.
Yeah, you know what, you're right, because it was quite easy for me to apologise, and what better for me to write it, and that you read that apology. But at the same time, the mistakes I went through, and it was difficult because I was realising, whilst putting it on the dictaphone and for me to put it down, my head was going, oh my God, when it's finished, this is going to go out. But it's not going to go out to strangers, it's going out to friends I know who know me, and they're going to know what I was doing and happening. And that was the embarrassing thing. That was really how frightened I was, because I didn't share nothing with nobody. Nobody knew what was going on with me. It was a case, like we was talking, it's like that cultural thing where your business is your business, it stayed in the four corners of the wall. All the information stayed in this house, and that was how my mother had me and my sister. And it was really hard, because I used to come in where I wanted to talk to somebody and share with somebody, and with not having that relationship with my mum, I couldn't take it outside. And so it was always like, yeah, go to your room, and it was me, because it was a single boy, was going in my room and laying there on my back, watching the ceiling, wanting to talk to somebody, closing my eyes, having tears in my eyes, wanting a brother, somebody to talk to. And that was meant a lot of times, that happened a lot of times with me.
The same when you had the cancer diagnosis, because it seemed to come together, isn't it? The addiction, then you got the cancer diagnosis, you went into remission, and then you relapsed with the addiction, and then the cancer came back, and then you went into remission again, and then you've been clean ever since.
I wasn't ready for it. I really wasn't. That's all I can think. I went in there, and when we do this, when you go in rehab, you've got to think that the people, the staff that you're working with, they're experienced with this. They've had to deal with this. And be honest, most of them haven't. They've never even taken the drug. So how are you supposed to know a person who's taken the drug? And I couldn't understand that. So yeah, I did rehab and relapse and come back, but I knew when we talked about my son dying in my arms at 9 days old, I had to turn around because he was now talking about my kids. And I couldn't have them having been embarrassed for me or about me. And I went back to rehab. And I went to the outer London, should I say, which helped me a great deal, because I didn't want to see the faces. And it was about, this is the truth, it was about talking to a counsellor. I always been thinking, why does a counsellor know my business? I'm telling my counsellor, no. That was it for me.
I was interested in coming because he's led the way for others to follow. I've got two sons who are sportsmen, and he's made their job a lot easier.
Brought back some very good childhood memories of myself. I'm not even a Chelsea fan, I'm a Liverpool fan. but I do remember that game that he was talking about very vividly, the game against Sheffield Wednesday. I remember watching on the television, and all I remember about Paul was he was the first black player I'd ever actually seen playing for Chelsea. And my father said to me, that's history there in the making, Joe. There is a black player playing for Chelsea. And I just remember him scoring those 2 goals, and always remember that going into my memory for as long as I can remember. And every time I see Paul now, I still remember that day very, very clearly.
Paul's a real hero to me. I've been a Chelsea supporter since '69, and what's interesting to me is he's basically represents the struggle for all of us, no matter what career we choose. The first one of us that's been there has had to go through a lot of these problems, and the fact that he's done it so publicly and so well, just makes me so proud of him. And then he's continuing the struggle and the fight. So I'm really happy to be here today. Really great event.
I thought it was really good. I thought it was insightful. I thought it was inspiring to see how a black man, or a man, turned his life around, and the struggles that he went through to overcome so many different obstacles. And back in the 80s, the difficulties that black people had in terms of progressing and becoming a professional footballer. And I think that story of how he was able to meet those challenges and overcome those prejudice, racism and everything else to actually still make it to the top. And I think that story is something which should be told, and also the journey that he's taken from finishing his football career to the mentoring that he's doing. I thought that was really a good way of giving back to the community and people, and inspiring the next generation of people, not just black people, but people of all shapes, colour.
I've actually known Paul for many, many, many years, a long-time friend of his, and I think his story is amazing. But I actually wanted to come here today to actually hear him tell his story, and he's truly inspirational. He's had a very difficult journey, but he's triumphed at the other side. So I just want to come here today to support him.
I really admire Paul for coming forward, sharing his story, because I think it would have been easier for him just to have kept all of that to himself. But I think for me reading it, I think it's encouraging for people to help one another. And I think that's what he's done in sharing it. It's made people who will read this just reflect and think more about the way they treat people or can help people. And I hope they'll do that. I hope people will have an impact. I'd like to think Paul's found something for himself. Found something to get over a lot of that pain he suffered.
I thought it was a great event tonight. Paul was very open and honest with his feelings and opinions, basically. To be in the presence of the first black player to play for Chelsea, thoroughly enjoyed the evening.
It's very rare that you find males, in particular men who are of Afro-Caribbean descent, opening up in such a public arena. And I think if a few more did that, then they can actually, sort of reach their goal, because often they're struggling and there is help out there, but if you don't ask for it, you won't get it.